Be talking about how the car market has flipped or has it collapsed. That's the main theme of the show this evening. We don't want anyone getting fooled. We want to help save you thousands. We'll also be talking about where prices are going to be going in the future because, folks, I kind of see prices going up on certain models. So we need to talk about that. I want people to buy now on the vehicles we should be buying now to save thousands and not ordering when it will cost us thousands more if we do wait. Now, new papa here. Daughter was born just recently. That's why we missed last week's live. So Marie's not with us. She's feeding right now. And we've got Lily here joining the show. So Lily is this evening's co-host. Good evening, everybody. We've got a good show for you tonight. This is about saving thousands so that you've got more money for your family. We don't want anyone getting fooled when it comes to car purchasing and where cars are going towards in the future, because I hate to break it to you all, but vehicle prices for vehicles that consume fuel that aren't at the 50 mile per gallon mark are going to continue to get more expensive. And the more fuel a vehicle consumes, unless it's in very low volume, high fuel usage vehicles are going to continue to skyrocket in prices because automakers are being forced out of the big, luxurious, spacious vehicle segment unless they're in very small quantities. And that's because the government is going to be taxing those suckers like they tax cigarettes and, alcohol and tobacco. So we know all about alcohol and tobacco taxes here in Canada because it doubles and sometimes triples the price of tobacco and alcohol. And just recently, we've actually had fuel jump up about an extra 30% because it's getting carbon taxed. Well, guess what? Automakers are also going to be getting carbon taxed, and us, the buyers, we're going to be getting, pardon my language, but carbon screwed. If you like getting screwed, well, then that's fine. Some people are going to really look forward to this. Some people look forward to things that are actually quite to their detriment. You just look on the internet these days and you see a lot of people cheering on and getting very excited for groups that would annihilate them. So we won't get into too much politics tonight unless it directly revolves into vehicles, into the whole vehicle conversation. So, we can't talk about the future of vehicles without talking about carbon taxes. So yes, it is somewhat political, but it's how we can know where vehicle prices are going to be going for certain vehicles. Now, Marie is not here. She usually takes notes, communicates, and chats with everyone in the group. So I'm going to unfortunately miss a bit of that, but I'll do my best. I do see that we've got Ridgeview in the house as moderator. We've got Wayne, thank you so much for joining. R-Cubo, Bud Guy, thank you so much, folks, for being in the show. You're going to get a whole lot of very important Don't Be Fooled auto news. And of course, that's going to tie into politics. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut out half of the viewership. Since I've gone and started talking about politics, we've lost about half or much more than half of the viewership, but I think certain things just need to be talked about. Now, before we actually get into the full show, I do want to say that this is my single guy night with you all. So normally I only drink water to keep the voice going, but this evening in particular, I'll be having a beverage. So cheers or prost to those of you out there who are having a beverage with the show. This show will end when I'm schmammered because I haven't had alcohol. I've had very, very little alcohol in the last 9 months there to support Marie. So this may very well be far too much. The little Makers, I won't say the full brand, but we'll say it's Makers Me Schmackered. So good evening. Welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for making it to the show. Move the desk there so we don't have that camera shake. That is a resolved problem. We won't be having that on the show anymore. So thank you so much for those in the chat. Keep the comments coming. If you have a question, you might have to post it 4 or 5 times before I really pick it up and see it. So let's talk about big news. Huge news, really. The car market flip or collapse. Now, Marie's not here, so I got to note this because this show will get kind of repurposed into mini episodes for those with shorter attention spans, ruined by Sesame Street, and now far worse episodes for children that don't actually practice their patience or their attention span. So we're starting this episode at around the 5:45 mark. So if you want to catch this, you will see this in small segments, but I do highly recommend that you're here for the chat with our community. We've got a fantastic community here, and I want to that's French. I was going to say congratulate Ridgeview. He's got his build for his Maverick going up, and where I'm actually getting a lot of comments from people. You know, I've been saying for a few months now, order an EcoBoost and you could be very surprised by how fast it gets to you. I've commented on previous Ford Mavericks, you know, this upside down guy right here, commented on previous Ford Mavericks showing up as quick as 4 months from the time they were ordered, even when they're ordered outside of, you know, during that closed period. Well, Ford needs to send a certain amount of Mavericks to dealerships. And if you just happen to be lucky enough, that dealership, instead of getting inventory, Ford cares about its customers. We still have a turn and earn program, meaning dealerships are still working they should be working if they're smart to get people's vehicles that they ordered to the correct person. So no bad games, no raising of the price, and silly add-ons, because if they do that kind of awfulness, if they're up to that kind of bad behavior, they're going to get a lot less vehicles from Ford. It will be hurting them. So basically, you know, I give out in what doesn't end up in the mini episodes. You get a little more insider information. You get a whole lot more rants that don't show up very often in the mini episodes. I'm trying not to. The mini episodes are more about direct and to the point. And this is really just much more of a conversation that I have with you all. Unscripted, straightforward, the real me, what's on my mind, what is bothering me, what should probably be bothering you as well. And if not bothering you, it should at least be on your mind and part of your consciousness, thinking about what's really going on in the world today, what's happening not just with our vehicles, but with our society, with our families. It's all part of the show, but it's a live show special. So that's what you get when you watch the whole live. So thank you very much for being supportive of this new family. You're not just helping to feed and dress those poodles with your thumbs up and share this info out to people, but you're helping to feed and dress those poodles, but you're also helping a small family with their very small business. And I do give it to you guys straight. I am, you could say, an insider. I have information that a lot of people won't have about the auto market, the auto industry, dealerships. So let's get this show right started up at the 8:40 mark. My apologies. So the car market. The car market has flipped, or has it really collapsed? Collapse means it's not going to go back up. Flipped means there's been a major change. There has been a major change. While prices steadily rose at an alarming rate, we could say prices skyrocketed on all models, and especially for models that were really hot, like the Ford Bronco, Ford Maverick. I was worried the Ford Ranger would have this problem as well. Heck, there are even at some points in the last 2 years, Ford F150s that were selling way over sticker. Ford Lightning is a great example. Ford actually increased dramatically the price of this vehicle to then reduce the price. And there's some vehicles that just continue to remain too high. So the Jeep you see here, it's not flipped. If you're not getting 10 to 15% off a Jeep or a Dodge, don't buy it. And actually, the manufacturer, Stellantis, with their sub brands, their manufacturers, Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, they're not flipping prices. And as a result, they've got crazy high inventory. So you just got to wait for a better deal from these manufacturers. So we're going to be looking at important data that you need to know so you don't get fooled. And these are your weapons. They're your arms, so you can strong arm a better deal when you go to shop one of these vehicles. So we will talk about the Ford Maverick, the Ford Bronco, Jeep, Dodge, 1500s, 2500s, 3500s, Ford Super Duties, Ford F150s. So all the models that we love for the most part. No vehicle's perfect. You'll always be angry at a vehicle. I was recently very angry with my Ford F150 Lightning, and during the upcoming few weeks, I will want to be putting together and editing videos to help make your life with the F-150 so much better. Just to say, vehicles are getting more and more packed with technology, and as a result, it's like when we're trying to work the first laptops, or if you're a little older, if you remember, I was in charge, you could say. I was the family leader for trying to get the VHS machine working. Those cassettes, those videotapes, when they were new, getting the new VHS player working, that was very stressful, frustrating. But once you knew how they worked, we loved them. Well, the same thing's going down with new vehicles, and the more technology that these vehicles have, the more frustrating it can be. But once you know, I will tell you, once you know how to use the tech, you will love these vehicles. But such great importance to actually know how to use them. So we'll be covering that. But let's get back to the car market, flip or collapse. Now let's get some proof on whether we have a car market that is flipping or a car market that is collapsing. And also how to not get fooled, to know what to say and what to do so that you get a great deal when you go to shop one of these vehicles, either new or used. I want you to save thousands, and there are things you should know, and there are things that you should say to save thousands of dollars. And sometimes you just have to be ready to walk away from a deal because some dealers still are going to be very difficult. I'm hoping to actually build and price an F-150 with you, to have time to do that this evening, to show you where future prices are going on certain models. This is actually rather quite scary. So for episode 1, let's just talk about how the market has either flipped or collapsed. We're getting both from a lot of YouTube videos. This is going to be very factual. As we go through this live, we're going to be using order guides from Ford to really see what's going on. We're going to be using data, of course, because we are data driven here. Try to be as much as possible like one of my favorite channels, Car Edge. You can actually read great information or catch them on YouTube. Mix in a little bit of water because, as I said, once I'm schmammered, this episode, folks, is done. And I'll get back to, I won't immediately get back to playing dad, obviously, if I'm schmammered. But we got Marie in charge of the new baby. Okay, so let's talk about it. I would say that the car market has flipped. It hasn't collapsed, and I don't think it's ever going to collapse because automakers don't just sit on their hind legs and watch Rome burn and not do anything about it. They will not let the entire auto market completely collapse and then see, a third of the current companies go bankrupt. The government might have that impact on car makers in the next 10 years because they either need to get woke or go broke. They need to go full EV. They need to buy in, believe, and go wholeheartedly on this idea that we need to reduce CO2, otherwise we're all doomed. So let's see what that looks like for us when it comes to what's really going on with the data. So I'd say we are nowhere near a collapsed market. And the reason for that is, sales growth. We look directly, quote from JD Power, sales growth is being enabled by improving vehicle availability, said Thomas King, president of the Data and Analytics Division at JD Power, in a statement. Also, they're pointing out, so Reuters is pointing out that despite the nearly 6-week UAW work stoppage, retail inventory levels in November are expected to see a 7.5% increase from last month and a 43.7% increase compared with last year. Now, that kind of inventory increase could mean that there is a collapse. But are more vehicles being sold? Yes. Prices have come down, and this is why I'm thinking this is more of a flip. Vehicles do not accept to spend over MSRP on any vehicle. That makes no sense, folks. Inventory is piling up. I'm seeing this at dealerships across my city, and from watching various YouTube videos, I know that this is pretty much widespread. We see it in the data as well. So there's a 1.9% year-on-year decline in transaction prices, with an average price of new retail vehicles. And that's because previously, last year, we had about $47,000 per vehicle. We're now at $45,332. So prices have gone down. But if the market had completely collapsed, prices would be dropping by something much more significant, like 10, 15%. For high, for low, as well as YouTube Spotter's Guide. Thank you so much for being here. You guys have great information to share with the community, so please, in the comments, do share that information. So Reuters also points out that U.S. new vehicle sales, including retail and non-retail transactions, are estimated to reach 1.23 million units for November. Now that's up 10.2% from a year ago. Sales are up, folks. That's not the sign of a collapse. However, why are prices flipping? They are flipping. Do not accept to pay over MSRP, and don't accept to pay even MSRP. You need to either, when you're shopping, see a fantastic interest rate that is promotional. So right now, the current, you could say, bank interest rate on a new is about 8.99%. 7.99 to 8.99%. Anything below 7.99 is essentially an interest rate that is costing the manufacturer money. So they are buying you a better rate. They're offering you a better rate. It costs them money. It's the same as a rebate, unless you're paying cash. Of course, if you're paying cash, wait 2 more weeks or wait a month. Wait until that manufacturer of the model, specific model you want, has a cash rebate. If you see an interesting rebate, 2, 3, 4% or less, maybe it's less than 2%, but if you've got this, what seems to be a great interest rate compared to 7.99, anything below 7.99% is an interest rate that is being, you could say, paid for by the manufacturer. If you're paying cash, you just need to wait until there's a promotion where the interest rate is, you could say, normal, so 7.99% or above, with a cash rebate from the original price, from the original MSRP, that's manufacturer's suggested retail price. You can find that in all your vehicles, should have a window sticker. Now, I've prepared this show this evening. I'm not just doing this. Most of this is ab lib, you could say. It's not scripted, but the subject matter is planned out. The general topics. So a window sticker. Look for one of these on the vehicle. You can see from Ford, you'll always have 3 logos. You'll have one in the top left, in the middle, and down here off to the side. This little one here, I can zoom in on it. Ford Protect down here, you can see it right there. So you're gonna have your 3 logos. If you don't have your 3 logos, it's been made by the dealership. To be very, very weary of, now the computer is just playing games with me. Until you know how the technology works, it can be very frustrating. So you can see in 2023, a Ford F150, $75,300, major changes to that price for 2024. So as you follow along with the episode, this live, you'll see this get explained more. If you're watching this as a mini episode, just a small reminder, please hit thumbs up. Share this content with people that could use saving thousands of dollars on a vehicle. Unless all your friends just have so much money they love to burn it, then don't share this information with them. But if you care about your friends and you care about a small family business, please share this information, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell notification. Now, I'm going to get down to the t-shirt. It's getting a little warm here. I'll blame the juice for that. So car prices, truck prices have essentially flipped. And that means for certain models, paying MSRP could actually be a pretty darn decent deal. These are for the hot models. So if you get a Ford Bronco at MSRP, that's pretty decent. Do not spend over MSRP on a Ford Bronco. Plus, if you order one now in certain regions, you're not going to be waiting, waiting times were up to about 2 years. You shouldn't be waiting 2 years anymore. You might be waiting at certain dealerships that still have a bit of a list 1 year, maybe a little bit more, but a lot of dealerships, you might get a Bronco in 4 to 8 months. So why pay more than this number right down here for your Ford Bronco? And that's 75,000 Canadian, is actually a pretty normal number for a Bronco. That'd be like a well-equipped 2.7 liter Bronco Badlands. If you find one, I know Ali Dubois at her dealership, I believe that's in the Michigan area, they're selling at MSRP Broncos. In my area, we have always sold available Broncos at MSRP, and we continue to offer Broncos at MSRP. Very tempted to trade in my Lightning for it, because my Lightning, hey, it's all sorts of new technology. It's not programmed the way I would want it programmed. I can't change the program, and until I get used to it, it's like that brand new VHS when they first came out, or that brand new laptop or cell phone, smartphone when they first came out. I am so frustrated. And you will be too. So watch, let me waste my money, let me be frustrated and turn red in the face, and watch the videos that I'm going to be doing on how to use the F-150 Lightning. Because if you know how to use the F-150 from day one, from when you ideally watch the videos before you get it, once you get your F-150 Lightning, or really any new vehicle with those touch screens, if you know how to use the tool, you're not going to be hitting the hammer against your thumb and swearing. That's what this new technology is like. It's like being a youngster who's never used a hammer before and swearing the whole time because they keep missing the nail and keep hitting the thumb on the nail. You got to be careful with giving people instructions. You say, here's a hammer, now go hit the nail on the head. Well, this is also a nail. So if you don't over-explain things to certain people, they just won't get it and will just be like, hey, you know what? My father's crazy. He told me to go hit the nail with this hammer, and it is unbelievably painful and horrible. So I'm going to, go off and believe what I want to believe. And M. Peugeot's in the chat. I guess we can start the show now. So prices have not collapsed. They've flipped. And the F-150 2023 is a good example of that. You can currently get an F-150 either with a promotional interest rate as low as 0.99% interest, or if you're willing to pay a little more interest, you can get $5,500 off an F-150. That was not the case, definitely not the case 2 years ago. Mind you, the suggested retail price was much less. The big price increase went from 22 into converting to 23s, and there's another upcoming price increase going from 23 to 24. I'd say it is the best time. You get the best deal if you want a truck, go out and buy your truck right now. F-150s, great promotions on them. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Now, prices flipping, collapsing. I'd say they're definitely flipping. Got to make sure I go pause that there. Anytime I touch that, it goes off. So prices are flipping. They're not collapsing. Yards, yes, yards are full. They're full at the factory. As you can see here, they're also full at the dealership. But it becomes a bargaining chip for us buyers. Do expect promotional interest rates, or do expect a mix of a promotional interest rate. Like right now in an F-150, you can look at getting 3.99% interest plus a $5,500 rebate. That's the type of deal you should be looking for. The companies that aren't bringing down the prices are playing with fire. They're looking down the barrel of bankruptcy. They could collapse, and right before they collapse, there probably would be some very good prices, but they're not stupid. They're gonna, some companies, manufacturers are saying to themselves, we'll take it to the max, full throttle, and we'll let off the throttle only when we absolutely have to. Very last minute, right before we crash into the wall. Let's talk about that. There are definitely some companies that are doing that, and that's going to lead to episode 2. So just to conclude episode 1, prices have not collapsed. The car market has not collapsed. People are still buying new vehicles. People are still buying used vehicles. However, do look online at average prices for the used vehicle you're looking at. For a little trick to save you thousands on a used vehicle, be smart about it. Look at the data. Go to websites like CarEdge or AutoTrader that will tell you the average price of the vehicle. And don't get fooled. Don't just go from memory and say, hey, you know what? This is a good deal because I saw a vehicle just like this. Let's say you're shopping for a Dodge Ram 1500 or even better, and a used F-150, a 2020 Ford F-150 used last summer, early last summer or spring when there was no rebates on the vehicle yet. You're thinking, hey, it's $2,000-$3,000 less than when I saw a 2020 Ford F-150 for sale in the month of May. That used vehicle should actually be $5,500 less because the new vehicles, there's now a ton of inventory of new trucks, no matter what brand you're looking at, Dodge, Jeep, Chevrolet, Ford, your Ford F-150 or GMC 1500, Chevrolet 1500, Ram 1500, either between the interest rate or the rebate, the prices on these have dropped by about $6,000 to $7,000 compared to pricing back in May. Now, that new pricing does affect the used price. This is why when manufacturers do, $10,000 rebates on the new vehicle to draw in buyers, maybe they're drawing in new buyers, but they're also killing the used price, the used value on the trade-in. So that always bugs me. But right now, if you're shopping back in May and you're looking at prices now, do expect those prices to have dropped by a good 15%. You need to see those prices about $7,000 more. And this is why it's important to use AutoTrader or CarEdge. See what the average price online is for the vehicle. Don't just drive into a used lot and accept whatever price you see. You can do that, but have your smartphone with you. Punch in the make, model, and trim, the equipment that's in that vehicle, and look at vehicles with very similar mileage and shop all over the internet. Now, if you find several $1,000s less than the dealer that's right in front of you, but you like the color or you don't feel like driving all over the place, show them. Say, look, I've got a black, a red, a blue, this model. Look, it's the same equipment. It's about the same mileage. You're over, your price, you're asking $3,000 more than them. I'm ready to sign this vehicle now if you bring down the price by $4,000. And that would make sense because dealerships that are the most competitive when it comes to pricing of their used vehicle, if they have the best prices online, they're not going to be very negotiable because they already have the best price. They're drawing in people from all over the place. They get all sorts of demand. So if you do get that vehicle you're looking at and you end up getting it $1,000 less than the best priced models on the net for the model you're looking at with similar mileage, similar equipment, then you're getting a heck of a deal, a steal of a deal, because those dealerships themselves probably wouldn't be very negotiable, but the dealer that you're sitting in front of doesn't necessarily know that, and they might just be able to close a deal and not have you drive away to that dealer. Might very well take your offer of $1,000 less, and if they don't, if they just price match, you're still going to be doing pretty decent because generally dealerships that have the most competitive pricing on the net are not negotiable or very negotiable, and those not very negotiable. And the ones that are pretty negotiable end up often being the ones that aren't going to put the maintenance and repairs into the vehicle as they should. You don't want to, finance a vehicle, a used truck for $30,000 and have $3,000 to $5,000 to put into it. So do ask to see an inspection sheet, and do ask that, not only do you see the inspection sheet, but that they actually do the maintenance and repairs that are required. You can also take it and ask for a second opinion, go to another mechanic and see what needs to be done on the vehicle. And that should be part of your negotiations as well. So that concludes not just how the car market has not collapsed, but it has flipped, but it also covers the section of don't be fooled. That is actually how you shop a used vehicle. And shopping a new vehicle, of course, can be done very much in the same manner. Look online at the manufacturer's build and price website, build the vehicle how you'd like it, and then make sure you're getting the same interest rates as online advertised and the same rebates. And guess what, these days, because dealer lots are full, if you're looking at a model where they've got plenty in stock, you can probably expect to get a nice little present from the dealership, because they are going to want to make that metal move. Because the used market, we're looking at nearly 100 days of inventory for the used market. So smart used dealers are going to follow the principle of buying at the right price. That means if they're smart, if they're advertising their new vehicle at a really great price, you can probably expect them to minimize acquisition mistakes, meaning they're going to offer you the correct price for your trade-in. Not what it was worth last summer, but now what it's worth, 10 to 15% less than what it was worth back in June, where we still had relatively inflated prices on the used market. They're also going to match pricing to market conditions, meaning they're going to be smart. Your trade-in, as well as the vehicle they're trying to sell, they're going to make sure that it is at one of the best prices on the internet, because they want to roll over their inventory. They want to move metal, because really how to keep a used car dealership alive and thriving these days, 50% of your inventory needs to sell within the first 30 days. So it's all about reducing your average inventory age. And that's from Auto Remarketing. Those are fantastic tips. So if you want to catch and read that article, that's Auto Remarketing under the title of A Used Vehicle Market Warning, Tune-Up Inventory Turns, or You're Toast. And I completely agree with that. So this gentleman knows what he's talking about. Dale Pollock, founder of vAuto, couldn't agree more. So those are tricks if you're a dealer. They're also tricks if you are a shopper. So let's move on to the next subject. Next subject we're going to be looking at here, we could definitely be covering, muted despite now, could definitely be covering, you know what? We're going to be covering the F-150. I feel like I really want to be talking about where future prices are going. So a little harder without Marie here to cover for us. So let's cover this right now. We're going to be talking about where future pricing is going. So future prices on vehicles, even the really popular ones, are going in a particular direction, and the least popular ones are also going in an interesting direction. So let's start with the popular models. Super popular models like the Ford Bronco, the Ford Maverick. Let's get those back up on screen. So back on screen here, you've got your really popular models, and you've got your least popular models that have, the Ford Mustang Mach-E with quite a few days of inventory on the market. The Lightning is going to be moving towards a lot of days on market. And even these vehicles aren't dropping tremendously in price. Now, of course, the Lightning, it appears like there's a huge price drop, but really they're just going back to their 22 pricing. Because in 2022, this thing came out with a price for 2021 and 2022. Huge price increase at the end of 2022 for the 23 model. And then they just scaled it back because they saw that they're going to be collecting dust on these Ford F-150 Lightnings, just like they did with the Ford Mustang Mach-E. Huge price increase, huge price decrease. And that's just to say that models with a lot of days in inventory just aren't going to go up in price. That is the future auto market for us. Even models that truly help manufacturers avoid huge taxes or, the whole carbon credit. If you're not if you're not nearing 50 miles per gallon every year, it's a little more hard to meet because they're raising that mile per gallon average. The rules are harder to meet if you're still selling gas vehicles that aren't, a plug-in hybrid or a traditional hybrid. Basically, every automaker needs to have a fleet average someday very soon of 50 miles per gallon. There's already consequences for being way off the mark. We've seen Dodge pay, sorry, I was going to say millions, billions of dollars, and their option was pay billions, many billions in taxes, just like how there's taxes here in Canada on cigarettes, on certain beverages, and on fuel, while the manufacturers themselves are being taxed. So car companies really want to sell these electric vehicles because it dramatically increases your mile per gallon fleet average. It helps all your vehicles appear to be better for the environment. So even at that, Ford, and that's why a lot of these electric companies, especially Ford, they're willing to lose. Ford says they lose $32,000 on every Ford F-150 model, electric, as well as the Mach-E, an average of a loss of $32,000. And that's because, and they're willing to make it because it's still better than paying billions of dollars either to the government or buying tax credits from Tesla for billions of dollars. And of course, this helps Tesla post even bigger profits. It helps them lower their prices more, making it so that these guys, all the other electric makers who are also producing gas vehicles, have to do a combination of two things: drop the price on their electric vehicle and increase the price on their gas-powered vehicles that take up a lot of fuel, because they need to bring down that fleet mile per gallon average. This is why gas guzzling, you could call it the gas guzzling tax, gas guzzlers are going to become more and more expensive as time increases, because the mile per gallon fleet average threshold, that minimum you need to make to avoid billions of dollars in either fines or billions of dollars paid for carbon credits, are going to go up more and more as time goes forward. So that's the reality. We're going to show you that through the F-150 gas-powered edition. I'm going to physically show that to you in a moment, but right now we're just covering where future prices in general are going. So you can expect that, bought that on the week just recently, bought my second Porsche 911, but gas-priced vehicles are definitely going to be going up. Now, we can see that sales are continuing to go up otherwise. But sales, inventory has gone up. Inventory is 41% higher than it was a year ago, but sales on average are only 10% higher than a year ago. So you can see that 30% divide shows you that while sales have increased, they're not matching the inventory increase. There's a 30% discrepancy, and as a result, the car market has flipped. You can catch the other episode that we have on this topic to really to hear more about it, or if you're in the live, you caught it just earlier. So please do like and subscribe, share this material with people, and turn the bell notifications on to help feed and dress those poodles, as well as take care of this small business, small family. Thank you so much to the car community for being very supportive of us. Now, there's a discrepancy, roughly 30% discrepancy between days in inventory, meaning if a manufacturer, if all their dealers received no new vehicles, it would take them a certain amount of days to sell all their current vehicles on the lot. Dodge is playing at a very scary 186 days of inventory, and that's because Dodge isn't going back to reach the customer base that they've always had. People looking for the lowest cost vehicle, not necessarily the most reliable, often some of the most powerful vehicles. So the reliability at Dodge on average isn't fantastic. The power is incredible. The price is incredible. Please don't be offended by the facts that I spew your way, because I'm all about saying the real deal so that nobody gets fooled. And there's pros and cons, highs and lows to every make and model and to every manufacturer. But it's just a fact, Dodge isn't as reliable. Great at making power, great on pricing. But you can see from the chart behind me that we're in a general increase year over year from a year ago on every model, but not as much as inventory. So prices, companies are still selling more. So far, having this inventory increase has been quite beneficial and needed because, well, there weren't vehicles on lots a year ago. This 30% discrepancy is needed and still desirable from companies unless you're heading at the Dodge end of the scale of, having the highest number of days in inventory at 186. That's starting to be scary. They're going to need to fold their cards soon. They are going to need to be dropping prices by 10 to 15% along with Jeep and Chrysler if they want to survive. So let's see if we've got the little chart that I can throw on for this here. No chart. You'll just have to, if you're on last live we had 2 weeks ago, you probably do remember that chart sitting in the background. You can expect deals, should get deals from companies with high days in inventory because they're in a weak negotiation spot. Whereas Toyota and Honda, they're at a very high negotiation spot. You'll probably pay over MSRP for those new vehicles because they don't have very many days in inventory. So there are definitely some models that are, you could say, suffering more than others because they've got crazy numbers, crazy days in inventory. We're going to be talking about Save the Manuals shortly, but future prices, to put in a nutshell, to really conclude, if you've got a love for gas-powered vehicles, do expect prices to go up. If the vehicle's not making 50 miles per gallon, it's at the detriment of the manufacturer, and the price of that vehicle is going to go up because the manufacturer needs less people buying the gas guzzlers, and they need a whole lot more people buying either the electric vehicles, the plug-ins, or the hybrids. So I'm sorry if you're not on that bandwagon for the electrified vehicles. You're going to be disappointed if you plan on buying in a few years. I'd say buy right now. So let's do a little build and price here. If you build and price a 2023 Ford F150 in Canadian dollars, an XLT Sport, so basically the image we have here, if you try to build that right there as a 2023, you're going to be playing around 73 to, for a 6.5 foot box, $73,000 to roughly $76,000. But what's going on with the 2024? For the 2024, we build out the same vehicle and it's rough. We end up, same vehicle, and we're going to be playing around $83,000. So big price increase. Let's check it out right here. Let's see. This is for the 2023. So $73,250. Now stick with us because this is an example. This is going to be your proof. So take my word for it. This is the end of the episode for you. If you're in the live, you're going to see it play out. But if you're at the end of the episode, do know, try building your own 2024 Ford F-150. Comment, what do you think is going to be the price? If we're looking at 73,000 Canadian, works out to about the same US, do you think we're looking at an extra $5,000, $10,000, $15,000? Are we looking at an extra $2,000? Let's try to get to the build and price website, US, as we get into the next episode. All right. Welcome to Johnny's Car Care and Reviews. While we're going to be covering in this episode, we're covering the 2024 Ford F-150 build and price. Yes, this is going to be more expensive than the 2023, meaning if you like the Ford F-150 and you don't like spending more money, buy the 2023 right now. You should be looking at about $5,500 off or a fantastic interest rate. The last few months, Ford has been sort of splitting the month up into two deals. You can either get the big rebate or the really low interest. Well, the big rebate does come with a bit of a mix of the two, but you can get as low as 0.99 financing right now on a 2023 Ford F150. Now that's a spicy deal. That is a very good deal. And if you're willing to spend, in 84 months, 2.99, if you take that with $5,500 off, you ended up spending an extra 3% in interest, but have an extra $5,500 off. So if you're paying part of the vehicle cash, or your trade-in is paid off, or you're just paying the whole vehicle as a cash purchase, that's the deal for you. Don't buy when the interest rate is really interesting, as low as 0.99. If you've got the cash, you're going to want to buy that sucker when the interest rate's higher and you get a much higher rebate. So that's a little trick to save you thousands. I'm Johnny from Johnny's Car Care and Reviews. I love saving people thousands. And if you like saving thousands, please hit the thumbs up, share this content with people that could use some money saving tips. And please join us by subscribing and turning the bell notification on. So let's go check this out. So if you're sitting at home and you've gone into your Google web browser, you just need to simply put in Ford F150 build and price. Now, you'll have some .ca if you're in Canada. You'll have some .com. I'm going to go to the .com, so we're all speaking the same language because, 90% of viewership comes from the US. So if you're wondering why I don't do more Canadian build-in prices, that's why, because it's about 5, sometimes max 10% of viewership comes from Canada, and the huge majority of viewership comes from individuals 45 years of age and older. So we'll go to the Ford.com. Now, had we built this 2023 Ford F-150 on the Canadian side, the 2023 Ford F-150 Canadian side, we just saw the price was $73,000 and a few $100. So let's round that off to $73,000 to $74,000. Building the same vehicle as a 2024, we end up 10,000 Canadian dollars more. So we're going to be looking at about probably $6,000 or $7,000 more US dollars. So let's look at what this US Ford F-150 is going to look like if the website must be set up for, you can see right here, they're offering a 2023. You just hit change vehicle. You'll want to be on current year, and let's go down to the F-150. Now, the F-150, it looks like they don't want us seeing this price increase because we've got the 2024 Super Duty, the 2023 Ford F-150. So let's do a build-in price back on the Canadian website because the US doesn't want us to see this price increase, but it's going to be $6,000 to $7,000. As I proved to you that in Canadian dollars, it's about an extra $10,000 to have the 2024. So Ford F-150 build and price. If you're doing this with us, you can go right along, do it at the same time, add the equipment that you want, but I don't want anyone getting fooled. So these websites often are built in a way to make you think that you need to pick the next or sometimes 2 trims higher. We saw it with what turned out to be really popular Ford Maverick build and price videos that I made. And I did make sure to cover that don't be fooled section. Well, you're going to get your don't be fooled right here. Excuse me. We'll go hit start your build. And again, they're offering the 2023. We'll hit change your vehicle. You want to be on current. And go down to the F-150. I was building this just yesterday. We've got the Ranger there. And again, they're offering the F-150. So that's really odd. Let's slide down, maybe under future vehicles. Sometimes they put these down here under future vehicles. So this isn't a future vehicle. If you order, you can't order a 2023. So this is silly. Go down to the 2024. They put it under future vehicles. Wasn't there the other day, so sometimes the website gets mixed up a little. They move things around. Now, if you want a 6.5 foot box, basically if you go with a 5.5 foot box, you can continue to get your sport model, because let's be honest, most people are trying to avoid chrome. But don't be fooled here. If you go with the 5.5 foot box sport model, yeah, it's probably going to show up in the next 2 to 4 months. However, if you go for the 6.5-foot box, which is very popular in my area, you're not going to have your sport model show up in the next 2 to 4 months. It's going to be showing up as job 2. So that's probably going to get built sometime, maybe May, June. So you're not going to see this vehicle until next summer if you want a sport or black appearance 6.5-foot box XLT. And XLT is where the money is. That's your value model. Now with price increases, I'd say an STX is starting to look awfully sexy and awfully interesting. I'm sorry, I find saving money very sexy. That's just the way I am. I like to save dollars. Your STX is a fantastic build, but guess what? You can't get heated seats on this model. Now you can aftermarket heated seats and not just some cheap pad you sit on for maybe $100. That's an option. But you can also have actual heated seat equipment. They can unstitch your seat, slide in the heated seat, and you can actually have heated seats on an STX. That would be the greatest value you're going to come across. Now, Super Cab, you're going to save some money. You're going to save a few $1,000s, but your resale value, if you don't believe me, check online. Resale value on these Super Cabs is super bad. You're going to get, $6,000, $7,000 less than if it was a Super Crew. So I'd rather spend the extra $2,500 or $3,000 now on the Super Crew, have extra space for other adults, baby seats in our case. That's why Marie's not here this evening. Support us, hit the thumbs up, share this material. Marie's off feeding. I did some bottle feeding, of course, and diaper changing earlier today. But I would not take the Super Cab. Definitely in our area, much better resale if you go 4x4. Of course, we're in northern climate, so everyone thinks you need a 4x4. People's historic memory is horrible. Everyone seems to forget that we used to drive around in essentially muscle cars that are rear-wheel drive with absolutely no technology, and we were just fine. But what can you do? So I would definitely consider the STX. Your interior, it's going to come with, let's check this out. I'd get it 4-door. You've got a great look there. You're avoiding chrome, as most people want to avoid chrome. Now, the first don't be fooled is, are you really going to get a 12-inch screen? Now, the Bronco has put 12-inch screens across the board. Now, I think this photo is going to be an error, and you're going to see why when we hit up the XLT, or maybe I'm wrong, but let's check it out. Let's go to the model here. Let's hit Super Crew for resale value. Let's go to the, by the way, we're going to go to the XLT, but at any time you can always hit view details and they'll give you a bit of a summary of what that model comes with. I would not get a straight XL. Spend the extra money for the STX. You're going to thank me when it comes to resale value. And I know Steelies are popular at the moment, but I think in a few years you're going to say, I need to buy Mag. So save the money, go right off, get the STX model. Now, they keep showing us the 12-inch. We've got the XL here. They're showing us the 12-inch capacitive touchscreen, helps keep us connected. Let's go over to the XLT, make sure that actually is the case, because otherwise, really, the one thing you can't get on an STX is heated seats. Everyone generally wants heated seats in our northern climates. But an XL is starting at $66,600. That's 3 too many sixes for me, but $66,600 is your XL price. That's not free, and the reason that's not free is just like cigarettes getting overtaxed, alcohol getting overtaxed, fuel getting overtaxed. I think California paying $8 a gallon. Here in Canada, we've been paying almost $2 a liter for years now. And the reason for that is taxes on taxes. The WB saying he'd be interested in hearing me rage on the Cybertruck. Well, I really like Elon Musk, so it'd be hard for me to rage on the Cybertruck. But that'd be more my emotional side because, of course, my logical side says, geez, talk about trying to save money. You've got straight panels everywhere, and I know they're pre-production models, but they couldn't even get the spacing right when it's a combination of here's a rectangle, here is an elongated rectangle, here is a square. The whole vehicle is basic shapes. And you're telling me you can't put a pre-production model together? You've built it by hand. You can always correct things by hand, cut, snip, weld, re-weld. You can't get that model correct. I'm worried what Cybertrucks are really going to be like once they hit production. Maybe this is going to be a truck worthwhile come Gen 2 when they change the styling. It is very cool that it's bulletproof. Super, very, very cool that it's aero-proof. It's your prepper's dream truck. Let's head over to the XLT. The Cybertruck I've got mixed feelings on. I think Elon Musk is incredible. I think it's incredible how he just recently very openly talked about how big big companies are forcing forward an agenda. Obviously, that agenda wouldn't necessarily come from just the company. We do remember that Vanguard, as well as BlackRock and State Street, own basically the entire, almost the 80% of the S&P 500. And it's been made very clear, publicly filmed by the head of BlackRock. It's been made very clear that they have an agenda, that they not only push it forward, but your CEOs at their sub companies, their jobs and their bonuses, not just their bonuses, but the jobs themselves, those CEOs' jobs at these companies that they've bought or have the majority of shares in, their jobs are on the line if they're not pushing forward the agenda. So Elon Musk has said F off to advertisers that are trying to manipulate, one, trying to have him push forward an agenda, and two, trying to manipulate him and bribe him with advertising money. So it's great. One of the richest men in the world has come out and said, look, there's an agenda at play. It's being pushed on us. And he's having trouble, imagine. He, one of the most powerful men in the world, is having trouble being able to say F off. And he has said F off. It's incredible because there's an agenda. You know, when we look at pricing on these F-150s, there's an agenda at play. Currently, we're being told that CO2 is going to lead to human extinction, not nuclear waste, not plastic and microplastics, not the crap they put in our shampoos, not the petroleum and the plastic products that they put for our skin, which is an organ that absorbs the essential plastic, and horrible vegetable, cheap palm oils and corn syrup. And not sugar isn't a problem, apparently. That's fine. Sugary cereal for children is better than eggs. Apparently, we don't have to worry about certain billionaires like Bill Gates buying up millions of acres of farmland. We also don't have to worry about State Street, and BlackRock. We don't have to worry either about them pushing an agenda on companies. We don't have to worry about them spending trillions of dollars to buy up single-family housing, causing prices to go up, causing people to more and more be forced to rent, removing generational wealth, removing the middle class. We don't have to worry about how the last 3 years was, a consequence of the last few years as the middle class shrunk dramatically. A lot of small and medium-sized businesses closed down. We don't have to worry about any of that. Apparently, CO2 is the only culprit, but for some reason, billionaires and millionaires can still use their jets 1 to 2 times a day, as many times per day as they want. We also don't have to worry about raising crime and criminals not being punished in cities that are completely going to the pooper, like San Francisco and New York, because Soros, a huge buyer of politicians and a big playmaker, he chooses who gets placed where in the Democratic Party. Well, he's been choosing attorney generals that are not punishing crime. So the social fabric of society is breaking down in certain cities because crime isn't being punished. We don't have to worry about any of that. CO2 is the major culprit, apparently. That's what we need to be distracted and worried about. And it is wild because while we are worried about CO2, nothing substantial is being actually done about it. It's pretty simple. I'm not a genius. And if I can, on my own, figure out that we should, if we have an actual CO2 problem, wouldn't we want to increase or at least not diminish what absorbs CO2? But no, we continue to cut forests down to make butt wipe, toilet paper. And we offer people thousands of dollars in EV tax credits when we could just give them a $40 bidet. That's a toilet seat that you add to your regular toilet, and it just cleans you with water. So you end up so much cleaner with less hemorrhoids and whatnot. Yes, 4 high, 4 low. Thank you. This is definitely a rant. Marie's not here to control it. So cheers, let's go wild, boys. Rant time right in the middle of what could have been a great build and price episode, but we'll get back to it in a moment. It'll be Marie's job to cut this out if she has any time in between the breastfeeding. When I'm bottle feeding, Marie can cut this out. But there's no effort to give people to reduce jets flying around, transporting 1 to 12 people using, a year's worth of fuel for an actual family, for their family vehicle, an entire year's worth of fuel in 50 minutes of private jet flying. No effort to save billions of trees per year. Instead, we'll give people thousands of dollars of taxpayer dollars to push the EV vehicle agenda, which, by the way, did you know that for 2026, it has been mandated by law that vehicles produced as of 2026 will need to have a kill switch in them? Nothing to worry about there. The big issue, we're going towards world extinction because of CO2. Yes, folks, you heard it here. That makes so much sense. Now let's see if I can get a nice little, I think I forgot the slide that says this well, because I think it's important to have an open mind. The type of things that bother me are, and we should all rant about, if you think of the rioting going on in Ireland, do recall that in Ireland, that the Black Lives Matter burnt down cities, burnt down police stations, caused forest fires, caused major city fires for 8 months, and that was A-okay with certain people, and it was, much needed, and it was all based on, an individual who had been killed by the police, and this George individual, actually, in the coroner's report that finally got released, we all found out that he actually died of a drug overdose in the back of died of a drug overdose, not from being choked with a knee. We need to all look at facts openly and often wait for facts before overreacting. Our life is what our thoughts make it. So Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest thinkers of all times, definitely made the best quotes, made more incredible quotes than any other individual. And I haven't read them all, so this is a bit of an assumption that I'm making here. But when we close our minds, that's when the real problems start. And when we also disallow people from expressing their opinions, that's also when problems start. And I will tie this in with the riots in Ireland. So you see right here, I think this is pretty appropriate. If getting offended by something you saw on the internet is like choosing to step in dog shit instead of walking around it, and then also crying and whining online about stepping in dog shit. You can choose what you see online. There is no reason, if we go to the riots in Ireland, this is being used as reasoning to completely shut down free speech. They want to shut down all hateful, bullying, online conversations. And I think it's great to, it's a great notion. And they're saying this to prevent future riots. So you've got the Black Lives Matters for 8 months burning down cities, Certain groups had no issue with this, but the same groups, current political parties with their agendas, one day of rioting in Ireland caused by three young children being stabbed, two to death. The third possibly will be also to death. So you've got concerned citizens getting worked up. Why are they getting worked up? Because they don't have, and this is an assumption I'm making, but I think people get worked up far more so when they feel that they can't express themselves. So this story, you got the Prime Minister of Ireland saying that, all this rioting is because of hate being spread on the internet through posts and memes. So they want to make posts and memes like that illegal, when in reality, it's actually mainstream media that reported on the story. And originally, the story was reported on as saying an immigrant. And then the story, of course, got washed and cleaned, and they're saying an Irish citizen. And in reality, it's an Algerian who has been in Ireland for about 20 years, and it's actually a Brazilian immigrant, a new immigrant, who actually stopped the stabbing from being worse. So I think it's important to be able to say the real deal without it being considered hate speech, because once you start to really label anything that goes against your agenda as hate speech, you're going to create a group of people who feel like they have no power, no say. And generally, you look at children, you take away all their power, you take away all their say, and what do? They have a tantrum. Well, adults were the same way. We're just big children. And little people are, kids are really small adults who, don't have the same capacities for memory and logic, but they carry the same emotions as we do. And when you completely shut down and shut up an entire group, so in Ireland, they haven't had any say over, last year they had 100,000 immigrants come into the country, and apparently it's racist. Already the rioters have been labeled as right-wing racists. And when you just completely shut down a group and say you're not allowed to speak, it's illegal. By the way, in Ireland, if you don't give your password to your computer to the police, already you can go to prison for 12 months. There's already all sorts of anti-rioting laws. There's laws against lighting things on fire, breaking vandalism. There's all criminal charges already in the legal system. But the Prime Minister's solution for ending rioting would be to control speech on the internet. And I'm sorry, shutting people up and making it illegal to express yourself will only create further strife, further division. And it reminds me of things like this. I'm a pretty down the middle center when it comes to politics. I'm right down the center. I'm all about kindness, getting together, and doing what's best for the huge majority of people. I'm a utilitarian, meaning that I believe the right decision within certain moral concepts, a moral framework, but generally the best decision is what is best for the greatest amount of people. You want to create the greatest benefit for the greatest amount of people. And when you see things like this, I'm not a Trumper, but I'm not anti-Trump and I'm not pro-Trump. But when I see things that say things like this right here, what you see on your lawn, Trump, keep America great. And then this isn't my opinion. This is someone else's opinion. What they see, not what I see. What they see is racist lives here. That's shutting down an entire group of people. People who support Trump for a reason. And we need to, if you're completely against, the idea of having Trump as a president, the best thing you can do is try to understand why some people would be for Trump being president again. Political parties need to work harder at understanding the other side and working to come to compromises together, a solution that will benefit the greatest amount of people, the greatest benefit for the greatest amount of people. And that only comes together when, instead of having two extremes, you find middle ground. And I think you can find middle ground by listening to the other side, by praying to become a more understanding individual, a better listener. Certainly does not come from completely shutting down and closing off an entire group of people. It certainly does not come from shutting down speech on the internet. So I have to say this week I'm a little ashamed to be a Canadian under the current Canadian system because, well, I went to my regular dealer posts. I'm part of a group called Dealership Life, and the Canadian government shut down those posts. Why did they shut down those posts? Because it's not a Canadian news source. Meaning, this is just one small example of a government becoming more and more fascist. I'm sorry, if we go back historically to the 1940s, you can definitely see that that was a period where they used the environment, they used, social well-being for the whole group, taking care of people. They used all that to actually take away freedoms for the safety and benefit of the group. Any group that tries to, buy your, not buy, but steal your freedom in exchange for safety, they're not the good guys. Historically, they're never the good guys. And I am weary, very, very weary of this. So I can't believe in Canada, I got banned from seeing posts from Dealership Life because it's not even that they're deemed hateful or anything at all. It's just not a Canadian news source. So I think that's a huge mistake. Also a huge mistake is when you completely shut down an entire group. So I'm never 100% anti-Dodge. I'm just realistic. They need to be a great price because they're not the most reliable. But I also don't think that, I won't label and say Toyota is the most reliable no matter what. Toyota Tacoma, most sold truck. Here you go. Let's look it over here. This is someone who's owned four Toyota Tacomas, and let's see what they have to say.
We've owned four Tacomas, and we've had problems with each of them. The first one is a 2021 Toyota Tacoma Trail Edition, and we were plagued with bad paint from the factory. That's not dirt, those are paint flaws. So the dealership swapped us into a 2021 TRD Off-Road, and it had a problem. We like to call it Sir Clunk Slut because it had a body mount problem. And because we like punishment, we decided to order a 2022 Toyota Tacoma Long Bed TRD Off-Road. Its transmission didn't like to shift in between 5th and 6th, and it lost its nut while we were driving off-road, so we couldn't shift the shifter. Finally, we now own a 2023 Toyota Tacoma TRD Off-Road. And not to surprise us at all, this one came without air conditioning from the factory. Maybe we're just unlucky, but does it seem like Toyota's quality slipping just a little bit? Over the last few years, we've owned four Tacomas, and we've had problems with each of them. The first one is a...
So there you go, folks. Don't believe over generalizations. The WB, I'm drinking the Makers something or another. I don't want to say the end of that because I can get flagged for both. I can be demonetized for swearing, very much demonetized for making political statements, which I'm doing tonight anyways. So I'm drinking Makers. It's from Tennessee and it is fantastic. Now, not schmammered yet, so the show goes on, but still on a bit of a rant. I just want to finish this rant by saying, Canada, America, please don't go to war. While our current soldiers are some of the best soldiers in the world, the U.S., you have the best tech in the world. You have also about almost 450,000 soldiers. But if ever those soldiers are gone, because Biden lately has been talking about how they can handle a four-front war, and that they're the strongest force to ever exist. Now remember, Rome did fall because of hubris. Hubris, of course, is a Greek word, not a Roman word. Basically, it means being too full of yourself. Once those soldiers are gone, this is your replacement. They're a young generation, very, very confused.
This is why accurate advocacy matters. Propaganda, lies and propaganda. A poster in my neighborhood in San Diego, California. Another one with just the right buzzwords bolded to get people pissed off at Hamas in Palestine and be xenophobic. More than 3,000 men, women, children ranging from age 3 to 85 years old have been affected in Israel. Palestine for the last 75 years have had 5 million people impacted. You don't see posters, you don't see people advocating for free Palestine and actually garnering any positivity from it. They get on. Why? Because propaganda works here, because we are so mindless. We are sheep.
A few points. One, that's not propaganda. Those are posters of people kidnapped by Hamas. Second, this person doesn't seem able or willing to actually distinguish the supposed pro-Palestinian cause from the pro-Hamas cause. This person is actively defending Hamas. Third, the first person to die under Hamas is this person. Literally the first. There's no one in the queue. It's just this person.
This is why accurate advocacy.
I read your comment, M. Peugeot. So, yeah. So I don't think that hubris, we got to beware of hubris. We need to, of course, always hear and try to understand the other side of the story. But we do also need to keep in mind that Ben Shapiro, whether you love him or you hate him, has a great point. We've seen a lot of, we've seen some LGBT parades, LGBTQ parades being very much pro-Hamas. We've seen young people cheering about, free Palestine from sea to sea, which means no more Israel. And it's just not looking at the historical. It's not being very aware of the history. Of course, Jewish people have been in the Israel area for thousands of years. Egyptians, pre-Christ era Egyptians, thousands of years actually before the birth of Christ, you had the Egyptians talking about that area being, Hebrew Jewish area. So, and at the same time, I just really truly hope, I pray for peace, but I definitely also pray for peace because I don't know how a forefront war would go for us.
He's gonna get drafted. Like, no, we're not. And you know why I know that? Because we're just gonna say no. I understand it was like that in like the 1940s. What else is there to do in 1940 besides shoot people? We have things to do nowadays. We have twerk, be bisexual, eat hot chip, lie. And we're also like really mentally ill. I have like 6 of these. What makes you think I'm qualified to have a gun? And finally, like, guns are like so tacky. Like, can you imagine just like pulling up with a gun? Like, that is so f***ing embarrassing. Like, what is this? The Revolutionary f***ing War? No. Like, let's just chat.
I don't know whether that's parody or whether that's real. Either way, it's the end of our civilization.
So yeah, George Soros, I think it's great that Elon Musk actually pointed out how George Soros is really trying to end civilization when he puts in power general attorneys that will not punish crime. So we need better education. We need to actually punish crime. I don't understand why there's such an agenda that is anti-religion, anti-Christianity, anti-Jewish, anti-family. I don't understand today's agenda. Maybe I'm just an old fool, and in the comment section you can all correct me. Maybe I should just stick to cars because cars are mostly what I know, and that's fair if you tell me that. But I do see the middle class closing and shrinking. A lot of this bothers me as a new father. I do agree that Toyota Tacoma is a very nice truck. The reviews of it are fantastic. Current reviews don't seem to have a problem with it being a 4-cylinder, probably because of how much torque it has. It's got a lot, and I said torque, not twerk. I know earlier they're talking about twerk. Gen Z's got a lot of twerking to do. We need to work on that. The older generation, we need to find a solution to this. The over-sexualization of our youth. Get them interested in cars again and doing mechanics and doing guy stuff. So yeah, it's a worry. Let's just check out this video, talk about doing guy stuff.
Jesus.
Yes, Jesus. We're not in a state to. Our current soldiers are the best in the world. We've got some of the best tech, but if Gen Z is going to be our solution for winning these 4 wars that the United States is almost getting dragged into, it is scary. I promise the rant's almost over, folks.
I mean, Soros actually he is, I believe, the top contributor to the Democratic Party. The second one was Sam Bankman-Fried.
Complete
In
frauder.
my opinion, he fundamentally hates humanity. That's my opinion.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, well, he's doing things that erode the fabric of civilization. Getting DAs elected who refuse to prosecute crime. That's part of the problem in San Francisco and Atlanta and much of other cities. So why would you do that? Soros realized that you don't actually need to change the laws. You just need to change how they're enforced. If nobody chooses to enforce the law, or the laws are differentially enforced, it's life-changing laws.
So I worry about the fabric of society. I worry about where we're going, because if society essentially does more or less collapse, it makes it that much easier to take away our freedoms in order to save us. But this saving us will be from a society that was created by the people that want to trade our freedoms. So we trade in our freedoms and our wealth, our generational wealth, our ability to buy houses. We trade that in for what? Safety? Well, the safety is only needed because the system collapsed. So that's where I'm going to cut short my rants for the day. I've got several more of those, and actually the very last one, because this is probably something that I do see happening very shortly, and it would make having water-powered vehicles, which is actually pretty simple science. You only need electricity to separate hydrogen from water. You can do it even within a vehicle if you have a little bit of space reserved for it, and then you can use hydrogen as sort of like a combination fuel source, where you can start off on fuel and then you can switch to hydrogen. My close friend who's a mechanic, has done this. He's turned his Dodge Dakota starts off on gas, then once he's at a certain speed, like for example on the highway, and he knows he's going to be doing 100 kilometers on the highway, he can just switch to hydrogen. So let's talk about that here. This is of concern.
Whether it's the Endangered Species Act, there might be an owl on your property somewhere, or it's the carbon capture. We got to get CO2 in, so we got to build these huge pipelines, so we have to take thousands and thousands of the best acres of farmland out of production. But the same things are happening all over the world, and that's one of the things I wanted to emphasize in my brief little introduction. They are taking massive amounts of land everywhere in the world, and they're using different pretexts. In Brazil, they were saying they were going to give the land back to the Indians. In South Africa, they were doing expropriation without compensation. They want to add it into the Constitution now.
Now, beware, he said Indians, so we need to, of course, we need to completely ban him, make sure he loses his job, completely destroy him for his innocent mistake. I think he should have said indigenous people. And I'm not even sure if that's an appropriate term anymore, because they changed their appropriate term so they can continuously cancel people. Just like vehicles are getting canceled. This does relate to the auto market, people, because vehicles are getting canceled because they produce CO2. Mind you, we can continue cutting down billions of trees every single year, fund for thousands of dollars per individual these EV vehicles, because, well, $40 toilet seats that shoot water to clean you, leaving you much, much, much cleaner. I've converted my house to this, leaving you much cleaner. Of course we wouldn't do that. Why? Because there's not an actual CO2 problem. We've had up to 0.07 parts carbon in the atmosphere. We went through an ice age, so of course that went way down. We almost went to extinction because it was at 0.03 and at 0.02 parts carbon in the atmosphere. Vegetation dies, the trees die. The corn stalks, the bean, all the vegetables, all the fruit trees, they're all dead at 0.02 parts carbon. Thank goodness, thank God the ice age ended when it did, because the ice age had a horrible impact on CO2 production. We came out of the ice age at 0.03, we're now at 0.04, and this is apparently what's going to completely end the world, go towards extinction. Do remember that in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, we went through 10-year plans of saying that oil would run out, saying, and I've covered this before, but every decade had this society-ending problem, and it was used to try to remove people's freedoms. We have to stick together, no matter what race, religion, political affiliation you are, we need to stick together against people that aren't happy when they're, billionaires. They need to be trillionaires. Let's stop selling our freedoms for this fake sense of safety. Remember, Greta Thunberg in 2018 said that if we continued, there'd be an extinction in 5 years. That 5-year extinction never happened. Just like it didn't happen when they said we'd run out of oil. And through each decade from the 1960s on, we were told that something would, be a civilization ender. Just didn't happen. Instead, we got pumped full of sugar to make us diseased, unhealthy. We got pumped full of oils and plastics to make us diseased, to make us fat, slow, and stupid. This system is wrong. The system that we're currently living in is completely evil. And that system also wants to take away our gas-powered vehicles, and that's where I draw the line. But let's just finish this video and get back to the gas-powered vehicles, because this rant has been the longest rant. Clearly, we all need Marie to be here, folks.
Under the guise of racial justice. In the United States, it has to do with environment, climate, endangered species, things like that. In China, they don't even need an excuse. Just get off the land or we're going to shoot you, right? And so the same thing is happening all over the world using different pretexts, but I think the objective is always the same. Like she said, remove people off of the land so that you can remove their freedom, so you can bring them under control.
I just one thing to add on that, using the Netherlands, all these regulations, the climate compliance regulations, all go after the small, medium, family-run, generational, small business farms. And once you replace it with the big corporate entities, you can have corporate government collusion that will go along with this agenda. In the case of reducing there's a war on high agricultural yields, going after nitrous oxide, etc. It's the same way COVID lockdowns affected the small businesses, and meanwhile the corporate chains could survive. They want the crushing of small business because that's how you're going to fight back. The small independent. Corporate and government are colluding in one voice on all of this, and we're seeing it with the cars, by the way, too. The World Bank isn't going to fund cars. Corporate banks aren't going to give out car loans. You have all of this is done without a vote. The most consequential decisions, whether we can eat meat, high-yield agriculture, buy a gas-powered car, is all being decided between corporate, government, executive, bypassing democracy like a COVID lockdown. We didn't vote for mask mandates or vaccine mandates or lockdown.
So just a reminder, up until 1913, anytime the government needed more money, they had to actually essentially go to a vote. They had government bonds, and people would give money to the government if they believed in the bond's cause, what the bond was trying to do. So the government would say, hey, we'll give you, let's say 3, 4, 5% interest on this bond, but the bond had a name like tax water. By the way, there's already talks of taxing our water because somehow that is going to be a good idea. So we have to really stick together, no matter what the race or religion you are, the color, it doesn't matter. What matters is our freedom, our ability to continue to drink the water we want to drink, tax-free, and actually, not have gas vehicles taxed out of our capacity to actually purchase them, to not have home prices increase because they're allowing major corporations to come in and spend trillions of dollars buying family homes, so that we no longer have a middle class, so that we no longer have that freedom of one day saying, you know what, I've worked long enough in my life, I'm 50 years old or 60 years old, I'm now going to sell my home and stop working, get out of essentially I don't want to say it, but when you're forced to work and you only have enough money for food and a roof that you rent, what are you really? I think that's a modern form of slavery. And I think that's what they're going for. They want to extract all the juice from us, the lemons, and they don't want to leave us with anything. So back to the show. Let's wrap this up with a nice F-150 build. Marie's going to have a heck of a time editing this out, so I'll take a note for her here. Ford F-150, build and price. Welcome to the show, Johnny's Car Care and Reviews. Thank you so much for being here this evening, folks. We're going to be building an F-150. We're going to be talking about how prices are increasing. If you want a great deal on a Ford F-150, I don't care who you're listening to these days, some will say that prices are awful. Now, right now, prices are some of the best prices you're going to see. Thank you, the WB. Very true. Some of the best prices you're going to see, because prices on gas-powered vehicles are only going to go up. It's all part of a plan. It's written into law. Companies need to be at 50 miles per gallon overall fleet average. So gas consumers, big gas guzzlers, can only be for very small models, you know. So maybe a future V8 for the Mustang, but only on like a super top end model like a Shelby, for example, causing causing very few of these vehicles to actually get sold. Thank you very much for high, for low. Now, if you're wondering who I'm speaking to, it's because you're not in the live, you're watching this as a mini episode. Do catch our lives Sundays at 6 p.m. Johnny's back. It's worn off. The rant's over. If you're watching the lives, you get all the full rants. This is the mini episode show, you could say. We're talking about the Ford F-150 from 2023 to 2024. Do expect prices to go up roughly $10,000 Canadian or $6,000 to $7,000 US dollars. Your gas-powered vehicles every single year, unfortunately, it's not because Ford doesn't love you. It's not because Dodge or GM doesn't love you. It's because they can't sell these in high volume because they have to pay crazy taxes on them. It's called carbon credit taxes. So buy your F-150 now. Expect a $5,500 rebate on your Ford F-150 2023. But if you have to order one, know the price is going to go up. So let's build that together. Your XL STX is your best value on the market. Now, you look at the website here, and no matter what you do, you can't get heated seats on the STX, but you can add them in. I'm not just talking about a little heat pad that you sit on that looks awful and has your friends and neighbors thinking that you're going to be hitting a bankruptcy soon. You can actually have a company open up the stitching on the seat, throw in the heat warmer, the seat heater. It's roughly $350 to $400 per seat, but you could take an XL, make it STX for resale value, take a four-door for resale value, and get a great looking truck with what basically everyone wants are those heated seats. So don't be fooled there. Now, folks, don't just look at what's the description beneath the truck. When you do go to start your build, do click on the little tablets below so that you can get the full description. So let's go back and show you where you can get those. You can look over here at Start Your Build. They change these websites pretty often. Just the other day on that main page, you could start clicking and see what all the interior options are more easily. But it's also, I think they've taken it down because there are some errors, because they're saying, for example, you have to go up to a 303 XLT to get heated seats, and that's not the case. The 302 still has heated seats, so that was a major don't be fooled option. Now, as we scroll down, you can see you got your 301. You can always hit the I for information, and you can see right here, this is what it's gonna come with. It's all the STX features plus 18-inch chrome-like PVD wheels, 6-inch chrome running boards, chrome rear bumper, door handles, and tailgate, 8-way power driver seat, security code. That's the security code is the little code on the door, often in either right on the door or actually in the door trim that you punch in your code if you have forgotten your keys. You've got 8-way power driver seat. So again, you're thinking, where are the heated seats? Security code, keyless entry keypad, Pro Trailer Backup Assist, Pro Trailer Hitch Assist, and 360-degree camera. Everybody loves the 360-degree camera. Totally worth it. I don't know very many people that use the Pro Trailer Backup Assist. It's got a great name, but really it's just a little round circular knob that you turn. If you turn it right, your trailer is going to go to the right. Now, you go up to the 302. Again, you're looking at Ford Blue Cruise equipped 90-day trial. So you get Ford Blue Cruise for 90 days. After that, though, you still get lane centering and adaptive cruise control. And those are fantastic safety options. I don't need Blue Cruise. I do love adaptive cruise control and lane centering. It keeps me safe when I'm distracted. course, it's talking about the cloth seats. You got your 10-way power driver seat with power lumbar. Still not talking about heated seats, but they're there on a 302. Now, they've removed the little options beneath where you could read all the interior options, all the exterior options, and that's unfortunate because now I highly recommend you download what is called an order guide, because with the order guide, you will see what's really on these vehicles. Now, here's the thing. They've also made corrections because just earlier this week, they were showing the 303 as being the first one with the 12-inch screen. And we saw on the pictures, it appeared that that's all the way down to the XL model. So we've got 20-inch chrome-like PVD, B&O sound system for the 303 package. Basically, a 303 is going halfway to a Lariat. It's a Lariat without the leather. If you want the leather, go to a Lariat or pick the trim of, you could go with an STX, an XL STX. If you're not leasing, this is a great option. If you're going to be buying, buy a leather interior. Catskin, for example, great company. They make leather interiors. You can pick your color and everything. Have the leather interior thrown in. Throw in the heated seats, and you've got a Lariat for much less money. And that's great if you're going to be keeping them. Now, if you're going to try to switch them in 2, 3, 4, or 5 years, having a Lariat will have that resale value, because honestly, on your STX, you're not going to get back all the money you spent for those heated seats and the leather. Now, plus standard features, this is normally where you get the interior. And you'll want, once these come back up on the website, they were full of mistakes, so they've removed them. But you had, my opinion, you had interior, you had exterior, and this is where you could actually see that the 302 has heated seats. Actually, sorry, I had to go to the order guide to find out that you had heated seats on a 302. So here's the big oopsie doopsie that you really need to know. Don't be fooled. If you're going for a 6.5-foot box on your F-150 and you want to remove the chrome, you need to go black appearance package or sport appearance package. They're not very expensive. They're, well, about $500 each. But those won't be available until job 2, meaning you're probably getting built more May, June, or July. It will mean a big wait for your 2024. So we can see here information, the discount XLT. I think 302 is great, but let's see the 301. Right now we're on a nice 301, the base XLT. What do we get? A whole lot of chrome, unless you go sport and wait it out. And you do have that 12-inch screen. So an early error of the 2024 build-in price is that it talked about the 12-inch touchscreen only being available on the 303. And that appears to be an error. One thing you can always trust is your Ford order guide. So I'll show you what a Ford order guide looks like. You can Google search it. It will come up. Now I get them easily because I log right into the Ford system directly. You can see right here, 2024 XLT series. One very useful section here is standard equipment. You look through the XLT, look through the standard equipment. Don't forget you've got your STX standard equipment. You'll want to learn that so that you don't overspend. And the big one here, I think XL is going to cover it for a lot of people. If you want a little X style, go XL with STX. And you want to look here, you see major product changes. Good to know. But XL standard equipment. You want to go through that, and you can see it is standard equipment. Here is our proof. Don't be fooled. The website was fooling us before, trying to trick us into thinking we need to take an XLT 303 to have both heated seats and the 12-inch screen, but we see it right here on the XL series. Let's zoom in. We've got the XL series standard equipment. That means standard means they all have it. 12-inch productivity screen in instrument cluster, and it includes a compass display. So you've got the productivity screen. Let's see about the touch screen. So you want to go through this. Now the website is actually, it's been updated. It's showing us a touch screen on the XL, on the XLT. So I do believe quite positive there. that that's the case. But don't ever believe anyone. Get the facts for yourself. Look up the order guide of the model that interests you, whether you're looking at a Ford Bronco, a Ford Maverick. The order guide is really what's gonna be what makes sure that you don't get fooled. And here's a little trick. You don't like spending either an hour or two reading through all this. You hit Control F, and okay, let's try that again. You can do searches, Control F. Okay, Control F, there you go. Control F, a little bar is gonna drop down. You barely see it on the TV here, but you've got your little bar and you can write 12, you can write touchscreen, for example. And if I write touchscreen, I now have touchscreen with swipe capability showing up, and it is on, guess what? Got the proof right here. XL, standard equipment, 12-inch. I'll highlight it here for you all so you can see it. 12-inch LCD capacitive touchscreen with swipe capability. So if you want that big screen, just like the Ford Bronco, all the Ford F-150s have that 12-inch screen. Very smart on Ford's part because, well, you're offering more to your clientele. You're also having volume rebates. Oh, so smart. I'm really proud of Ford now. I'm not a fan of the price increase, but I am definitely a fan of the equipment increase, because if I was buying an F-150, well, first of all, I'd buy a 2023 Ford F-150 Tremor. Great value, great resale. But once those aren't available anymore, I would actually, or if I want a 6.5-foot box, I'd still get a 2023 Sport FX4. 2023 Ford F-150. I'd take that $5,500 rebate. But if you're in a position where you have no choice, go and order yourself, or maybe you're watching this video down the road and 2024s are all that's available. Remember, you cannot order a 2023. So if you want your vehicle just the way you want it, you're going to end up ordering it. And, well, ordering it will cost you more because the prices have increased. So let's compare here. 302 was the big popular model for 2023. 3.5 liter power boost, full hybrid V6 engine. Get it if you do a lot of city driving. If you do mostly highway driving, you're not going to see very little fuel economy, 0.5 liters per 100 kilometers. So let's say you drive 65 miles. Every 65 miles, you might save a whopping, maybe save $1. So if you want the sound, go for the 5 liter. If you're doing a lot of city driving, go with that hybrid. It is incredible. It's like 40-50% more fuel efficient in the city, not towing. When you tow, throw all that savings out of the window. This is a non-towing option here. But the EcoBoost option is the most powerful engine at 570 pound-feet of torque. That's wild, folks. That's as crazy as the idea of taxing everybody's water. Yeah, it's awesome. 570 pound-feet of torque, more horsepower than you're getting out of the other engines. 430 horsepower. There you go. My memory is pretty decent here. 430 horsepower, 570 pound-feet of torque. Mind-blowing. It's incredible. If you want the sound and you're doing a lot of highway driving, or if you're doing a lot of towing, the 5 liter, any of the EcoBoost engines versus the 5 liter, if you're towing on a very regular basis, when towing, it's basically the same. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled by the sales guy that has an EcoBoost hybrid on the lot and only wants to sell what he has on the lot because he's a lazy jerk. Don't believe him when he's like, oh, it's going to save you fuel all the time. No, it's not going to save you fuel on the highway. Very, very little. Technically, he's correct, but it's not worth writing home about. And it's not going to save you fuel when you're towing. Actually, the 5 liter is probably, depending how much you're towing, the 5 liter, depending on your weight and your region, the 5 liter might give you the best fuel economy when towing. Bombshell. So note that. That's a don't be fooled section right there. So let's see if we build ourselves a nice EcoBoost. We hit it up with a 302. We try to throw the sport package on, which is going to be available job 2. So do expect a very long wait if you're ordering now. So pick out a 302, like the majority of sales is for an XLT 302 Sport this year for 2023. Throw on some sport wheels here. Looks like they're going to throw on the black appearance package. Loading, followed by more loading. The websites often aren't the greatest at first. Disappointing. All right, you can have skid plates for only $120. I think that's fantastic. Still loading, because when you throw on the black appearance package, your wheels are going to go dark, your interior is going to go dark, and all that chrome is going to be gone. But anyways, it's not a very expensive option, so we can actually calculate this without. Remember, the 2023, we're at $73,000 and so many hundred. It's roughly $7,000 Canadian more. We're still waiting for are we waiting for the 302 to load up? If so, because I was expecting a price of about $82,000 based on building this many times off air before we're live. Of course, it worked great before I was live, and now the Ford website working to embarrass me. So it's checked, but let's see. If we take it off, is it just going to load and load? Okay, so it has clicked on. Do remember, when you build on the website, there will be errors, and this is why in the legal jargon of the website, don't think that you can hold your dealer to the price that you build, because the website itself, and all this, the legal jargon, if you print it off, it will say there could be mistakes. Dealer could sell for a different price. These days, do not pay over MSRP. But let's see. We're on the 301. 80,000. We had clicked 301. See if we hit 303 if the price changes. 303, basically, you'd go with the 303 if you want all that blue cruise. So we finally worked through the bug. There is your outside with the different mags here. Do keep in mind, they've taken it off the website. Just earlier this week on Thursday, 3-4 days ago, you could pick black appearance package or sport appearance package for $500. But they are continuing to show us the chrome trucks because I guess they don't want people ordering trucks that will take over 6 months to get in. So 81,080. So you're looking at about an extra 7,000 Canadian. We're going to be looking at about roughly 5,000 to 7,000 US dollars in price increase for 2024. Folks, prices are going up. If your truck, if the model of vehicle, not just truck, if your SUV, if the truck or the car you're interested in is gas only and is not getting 50 miles per gallon, which is all of them. Howdy, Tim Bartz. Thank you so much for making it into the show. Thank you, Ford video guy, I should say. Thank you for the congratulations. That's based on the fact that we just had our daughter born into the world at 5.5 pounds and 20 inches long. She's being fantastic. She sleeps between her eating periods. So we feed for an hour and then we get 2 hours, 1.5 hours to 2 hours off where she sleeps. Well, she sleeps like a perfect little angel. So we are now responsible for raising her right and making sure that she gets through the world, teaching her what she needs to know to have the tools to survive this wild world we're going more and more towards. Love areas like Kansas, where they're still keeping traditional values, where they're still focusing on family values of being together as a family. So yeah, many people don't like chrome. So we're going to be wanting to take either the black appearance package or the sport appearance package. But do you know prices have gone up? So I plead you, don't listen to the YouTube channels that are like, oh, prices are in the process of collapsing, that they'd have you believe that you'll save thousands if you wait 6 months. The reality is if you wait 6 months, you're going to be buying the next year's model, the 2024 models, and they're going up in price. Whether it's a Ford Bronco, whether it's a Ford F150, whether it's a Maverick, big price increases on the Ford F150. And a long wait if you want to avoid chrome, unless you get the 5.5 foot box. Now, if you go with the 5.5 foot box, you can get right off. You built your sport appearance package or your black appearance package. But if you want that 6.5 foot box, which in my area is so much better for Yeah, Ford Video is so much better for resale value. Ford Video Guy brings up a great point. The price increase, basically the UAW has essentially the cost of every vehicle theoretically goes up $900. Does that mean that prices will go up $900? Yes, if Ford and GM and Dodge, if they intend on keeping the exact same profit margin, they will need to increase $900. However, prices have increased so much in the last few years that they're making billions of dollars more than usual per year. So Dodge, GM, and Stellantis have been making a lot more money in the last 3 years than they were making prior to those 3 years. So theoretically, the $900 they can afford. They have the space. They have the money to absorb it. Maybe instead of, let's throw out a fictional approximate number, instead of, let's say, $4 billion or $6 or $7 billion in profitability. Okay, yes, maybe they'll make $1 billion less, but they're still in a position to still make profit without increasing those prices by $900. Now, if they want to have the exact same profit margin, yes, prices will increase by $900 because of the pay increase that the UAW got for the workers. But I like happy workers because happy workers build things properly. If you look at the Can-Am, I was watching Light Bright, and they're showing how the Can-Am had bolts that had no nuts on them. And they're like, hey, this was built on a Friday. Built on a Friday can also mean built any day of the week by unhappy workers that aren't taken care of. So I'm all for happy workers. I think at dealers, you need to pay all the staff working there. You need to pay them right. So you've got happy staff that can, have the energy. They can spend their weekends with their family, so not be open Saturdays and Sundays. I think dealerships need to be closed Saturdays and Sundays. They need to have money to take their families places, experience things, see God's creation and be able to get out in nature, experience life, and come into work Monday rested so that they can handle, your angry Johnny or Susie or Carol or Karen. They need to have an actual life. Dealerships don't need to be open. No business needs to be open 7 days a week unless it's, the healthcare business, which in Canada is not a business. It's government run, and as such, it's absolute crap. Not absolute crap, it could be worse, but for the wealth of the country that we have, the healthcare system is not up to par because there's no competition. They don't care about actual quality service. They don't care about, solutions. They're just like, hey, shut up, wait 12 hours, wait 16 hours, wait. Often people get a date for their operation and they're already dead. You can wait for a family doctor for 10 years, but that's a different rant. Systems, people, humans, we need competition. Note the WB, I'm not going on rant 2. Thank you for saving me. It does help to see that you write that. So Ford truck prices, anything. Let's conclude this show, folks. Family, we've got to say the reality here. Anything that is not a 50 mile per gallon or better machine needs, unfortunately, to go up. It's being forced to go up in prices, not because Ford doesn't care for you, not because Ford wants to bleed your dollars out of your pocket, but because the government is putting crazy taxes on it, like they have for fuel, tobacco, alcohol, crazy taxes on companies that are making gas guzzling vehicles and selling them in high volumes. Selling 1,000, Super Snake Shelbys that, get 10 miles. Sorry, I'm going in the wrong direction. That, let's say take up a ton of fuel. It doesn't matter if you're only selling 1,000 of them. But if you're going to be selling 500,000 F-150s, they need to either make them 50 mile per gallon machines, which they're trying to replace the gas-powered F-150 with a whole lot of Lightning sales, or they need to increase the price so much that they can afford to pay the government or carbon taxes to Tesla to buy forgiveness points. They need to make billions of dollars on the model that cost them billions of dollars in BS made up taxation for a BS made up CO2 problem. Folks, we have much, much bigger problems than CO2 in the atmosphere, and that's proven by the fact that we continue to cut down billions of trees every year to wipe our arse with. And this whole made up story is complete, an agenda is completely asinine. Well, I've managed to not swear, so if I get demonetized, you all know it's because of my political viewpoints. Now, got a question here. Is there a vehicle that Ford sells that has a gas guzzler tax? They're all essentially, it's an invisible tax. The fact that F-150s, all trucks, have gone up in price is a result of the manufacturers, either if they continue to sell 500,000 trucks per year, it's an example of how they're going to have this crazy, thank you Ford video guy, that's a great example, the dark horse, the GT gas guzzling price, and just the overall price increase needs to, it's forced to occur in order to, in advance, prepare for the billions of dollars you're going to pay in carbon tax or direct taxation fines to the government. So they need to make billions of dollars more, and simultaneously they need to increase their fleet average, increase how many miles per gallon the company's using across all their models combined. And how do they do that? Well, of course, you need to sell more and more electrics and less vehicles that, say, get 20 or 30 miles per gallon. Now, remember, an electric vehicle, I don't know if the government actually has any penalty for them, but for example, a Lightning is the equivalent of having a vehicle that, takes 2.9 liters per 100 kilometers, or you could say something like 70 miles per gallon. So that gives you space. It gives you credits to be able to, sin somewhere else. But one way or another, unless politics go back to representing actual people and our agendas, our agenda of having freedom, happiness, freely moving around our families, vehicles are going to continue to have BS attached to them. For example, kill switches, meaning that if we're going through a health crisis, well, they'll just be able to kill switch your vehicle if you move out of your area, or maybe if you even just drive out of your driveway, you'll be able to have your, 2 or 3 mile radius to get you to your nearest grocery store. That is the future we're looking at if we don't unite and, combine kindness with dropping hatred for one another and our silly, identities and groups that we give ourselves. We all need to get under the group of freedom-loving people so that we can highly encourage governments to actually work towards our freedoms and not towards selling our freedoms to major corporations. That is the show for tonight. I know it's been a wild one. We had one of the wildest rants ever without Marie being here, but these things concern me even more now that I've brought a daughter into the world. I want a bright future filled with freedom, filled with capacities to create generational wealth. And I'm worried about the future generation. I have my house because of companies buying up land, because of companies buying up single family homes so that they can then rent them out, because of companies being able to buy out apartment complexes and having, major renovations so that they can legally double the rent in the places that they buy. Well, the cost of living has dramatically gone up, and corporations are the main evildoer in all of that. And for me, I'm not worried about me. My house, because of this, has actually doubled in value. I could probably sell it and sell everything I own and go live in a camper van for the rest of my life and travel and see the world. But I also worry about saving the world, and we can only do that by combining, forgetting all our differences, not being drawn to hate each other for our differences, but to be kind to one another, love one another, and work together so we can have a better future. Thank you, Ford Video Guy. I didn't think anyone could really tolerated much of my rants, but seeing that you're going to go back and watch my rant, well, it's good to know that there's maybe 2 of you out there who don't mind my rants. Maddie's not a very big fan. My rants scare her, apparently. But hopefully I'm not scaring any of you. I'm just encouraging you to love freedom, love each other, and to maybe go back to a time where we had more power in our communities, more decisional power. You know, you think back to 1913, where the government wanted to spend more money than the budget would allow, meaning if they wanted to spend more money than they've been allotted, the money we allot them through taxes is the power that we give to them. Well, if they want to spend more than that, they had to actually earn it. They had to convince you that their cause was good and just for the population, and they had to create government bonds with a name such as railroad, C2C government bond, or go to war government bond. And you could only go to war and have the money to go to war if you actually had the population say, yeah, we want to go to war. So, you know, here's my life savings, putting it in the government go to war bond. And of course, they tell you who they go to war with now. Now you can have a president, you know, threatening to go to war with China and Russia simultaneously and Hamas and really go to war with everyone at once. Hopefully they won't decide to go to war with Canada because we suck. We've got some of the world's best soldiers, but our equipment sucks. The US has some of the world's best soldiers and they've got incredible equipment, but your replacement forces are a little worrisome, as we saw from some of the videos from Gen Z earlier in the show. But I really do appreciate you all. Thank you so much for supporting this small business. And a reminder, please support your local small businesses. Buy from your local farmer, because there is an agenda to definitely push your local farmer out. I used to be on a dairy farm, and even in Canada, even though our land mass and our regions are not set up to be easily controlled by huge corporations, which do a tremendous amount of pollution, which generally factory farmed foods are not very good for your health. Sure, they're better than this sugary cereal that the FDA and health board are telling you are better than your morning eggs. But factory farms create a great deal of pollution, steal from what should be a middle-class family, destroy and close down small communities. Think of all those small towns that grew up and exist because of farming. Now imagine what happens when you have a corporate farm running it. Instead of chicken, you get sicken. And instead of happy, healthy cows, you get abused cows. And you know there's an agenda in place and being pushed by brainwashed youth who haven't thought it through, when that brainwashed youth seems to do nothing to attack factory farms and everything to attack family farms, and how, you know, the animals are so mistreated on family farms. I'm sorry, on my ex-wife's family farm, those cows got to go out and walk during the day. At night they got milked, and they could walk outside all night long. If we were having a bit of a coyote problem, well, then they could stay in the barn safely and go out all day long. Those were happy cows, not mistreated cows, because there's 100,000 cows for a 10 square mile area, creating horrific pollution. And if you look in the center mass of the United States, you know, you think back to the 1930s Dust Bowl, the only reason that farms were able to return and exist in the whole center of Canada and the US, and that we don't have a Dust Bowl, is because they found water hundreds of feet underground, and that water supply is almost being decimated. It's going to hit zero. It's going to run out because of factory farms. So that is a wrap for the show. I remind everyone, please be kind to one another, keep an open mind, always be willing to listen to someone else's viewpoint, so we can all learn, grow, and appreciate and be kind to one another, and so that we can all keep and maybe even regain some of our freedoms. Take care, everyone. That's Johnny for Johnny's Car Care and Reviews, signing out, reminding you, please hit thumbs up, like, and share. Hit the bell notification to help support this small business. Thank you so much for High For Low for being here for the whole show. And Peugeot, thank you for sticking with us. Ridgeview, your YouTube's best moderator. I truly appreciate you. Arcubo, I know you signed off and you had to go to bed. That's normal. I did a mind-numbing rant. But thank you so much, everyone, for sticking through. If you made it this far, type finisher. And when you see this live come back up as a non-live episode, please just go in and throw in a little comment like, hey, Johnny, I liked this part of the show, not a huge fan of this other part of the show. Give us some direction. We need it. Marie's not here to keep me under control, so I need you all to do it for me. Please let me know in the comment section. Take care, everybody. Wish you all more cars and more power.